Alright, now normally I would come out with a goofy narrator character or something. I love doing those. But today, it's me. I'm Montsho. I'm gonna Alfred Hitchcock this shit. I'm coming out, I'm the narrator of this story. I love house music, but they don't really make that shit anymore. So, I made this story a couple years ago about house dying out and it turning into something else. Yeah, but the reason I'm doing this story narration is because I love house. The way I wrote this is every chapter I wrote was a house song that I was inspired by while I was writing this. So if you really want to get hardcore with it, you can pause the video when I do a chapter break, then put in another window the song that plays, and then when it clicks over to the next chapter, do it again, because I don't know how to do the licensing shit. And if you don't want to do that, well, listen to the story. So the name of this one is Follow Me by me, Montsho Shelby. This is part 1. Follow Me, chapter 1, deep down inside, hard drive. Maybe it was 86 or 87 when he heard house music for the first time. The experience felt like a religious awakening. It brought out feelings he thought were reserved for tribal people who commune with their ancestors. There was a pulsating heartbeat that throbbed rhythmically and a chant that saturated the pulse like sauce. He loved the music. He lived it. He'd be it if he could. When the music played, there was no him, no body, no hurt, no pain, only a consciousness. He truly understood the concept of an afterlife when he first heard house, existing as pure energy. He had never experienced anything that came close to describing bliss anywhere in music. It was this love that prompted him to look so deep down inside that he found his calling. He couldn't dance, he couldn't produce music, and he couldn't create it himself. He had tried all three. The only thing he could do is translate what people thought into words, which was said to be a talent in and of itself. He didn't see it that way. It felt more like a vehicle that drove him closer to his nirvana than a talent. He tried other music and he could look into himself, but it didn't come anywhere close to house music. Now he felt a mounting sadness because house was waning. It was still there, but no one was trying to make anything new. It wasn't gone altogether, but it wasn't tearing up the clubs as it was in the late 80s and early 90s. Lauren had built his entire career around this, and it was becoming hard to find. What did that mean for him? What did that mean for his soul? Would he wither and fade away? Or was it more likely he'd become a ghost? He would become the old man who sat in the room listening to the only records that could nourish his soul, and could consume nothing else, claiming that nothing could ever taste as sweet. Lauren moved to the infectious rhythm that held his heart captive. He swayed without a body, feeling the pulsation off of his skin as if it were healing his soul. The sweat from the room was thickening, and there was a heavy, cloudy film of steam that grew on the windows from the warmth of the body heat. It was barely 7 degrees outside, but House turned this home into a sauna. He stood next to a girl who swayed left and right with her eyes closed, hypnotized by the trance. Not even a gunshot would have broke her from. The time was late, creeping into the witching hour, but no one seemed to notice. There was no one on the walls, no one talking in private side conversations, no men hitting on women, only the bass. The party was an entity all its own. It became its own organism. Lauren felt bliss as he had never done, even in the past. It took him effort to pull himself from the converted dining room of this Southside house party, but he managed to do so. He saw a DJ spinning turntables with the speed and precision of a juggler. He, or maybe she, was performing feats of musical wizardry. Lauren saw magic in her tonight. She had a black hoodie half covering her face and the same passive, unsatisfied expression housed by a true master of their craft, determined yet convinced they could do better. Lauren was transfixed by this DJ. He couldn't tell if she was a man or a woman. There was something soft about her, but also something strong about him. When he stopped to search his mind for answers, the rhythm caught him, and he was entranced once again. He had never heard this mix. Was it a new mix? Was it something from the past he'd never encountered? It was very unlikely the latter. The bass moved, the vocals were haunting. He felt himself growing in intensity, too much intensity. He couldn't stop moving if he wanted to. Bliss seeped into his ears and shot through his pants. He came. He absolutely knew it. Then the music stopped. Everyone stopped as if the invisible tethers had been suddenly severed. He looked down and saw the slowly pulling spot in the front of his pants and was slowly beginning to feel the self-conscious emotions that came from being human. He felt himself propelled into his body. He looked up to the foggy window to where the DJ was and could only see her in a glimpse, records stowed away in a backpack like a traveling merchant with turntables under each arm. Lauren moved forward, but the crowd swelled as an inflamed wound barring his way. He hustled to the kitchen and saw the blinds on the back door moving as if recently opened. He didn't have time to seek out his jacket in the ocean of others. Lauren ran out of the door. He'd escaped the house like steam, and the cold curdled around his sweat, instantly crystallizing it. There was an eerie quiet outside, which felt even stronger with the emptiness of the gentle falling snow. The echo of the music was still with him, but fading like a dream in which he struggled to recollect. He looked to the light dusting of snow for clues to the direction of the DJ. Though faint, he noticed the wispy steps down a dark gangway. Lauren moved quickly through the back stairs, nearly slipping in the process, but he didn't slow. He couldn't. When he got out to the front, the party was letting out, and people were filing out into the residential neighborhood, released back into the wild from their temporary enslavement. Lauren looked left and right, desperately as a dying man. The heat he felt from the dance subsided, and the bitter cold replaced the life and lust that had once gripped him. "Damn, nigga, you need a jacket," one man mumbled jokingly, more to impress his tribe than to put Lauren down. He glanced over to the rows of identical cookie-cutter houses and saw the flare of angry red headlights at the end of the block, delayed only by the arbitrary magic of a stop sign's power. Lauren dashed into the middle of the snow-dusted street and waved both hands back and forth as urgently as a plea not to run him over. The car didn't hesitate, it just moved along with no further regard. Lauren pinched the bridge of his nose in frustration and slowly made his way back to the slowly dying house party. He made his way through the waves of big jackets like a salmon swimming upstream. There were a few people loitering about, some still amped from the music they were gracious enough to have lived through. He went to the bedroom door, a room that served as coat check, and Denise was standing there as a sentry. Denise, Lauren thought with renewed purpose. She threw these little rent parties every month, and he was a regular. He couldn't rightly call her a friend, but he also couldn't accept that they were absolutely nothing. Denise pat her head down to give her weave a bit of air. She was short, but housed a mean look no matter how happy she was. "Denise," Lauren said with an octave that transmitted urgency and curiosity. "Yeah?" she said in a voice that conveyed trepidation and mild annoyance. "Your party was off the hook," Lauren said. Denise smiled despite herself. "Thank you," she said. Lauren put both his hands together as if in a loose prayer, fingers forming a pyramid. "Who was that DJ?" "Oh," she said with flair. "I don't know. She, he, whatever, filled in for Boilermaker Brute," she said. Lauren's hopes died again. "That was fire though. Did you hear that last song? Oh snap!" Lauren wished he could have been as purely blissful of the memory of that last set, but the idea he may never hear it again outweighed his joy. Then he slipped into the bedroom, closing the door behind her. There was only the briefest glimpse of a mound of dwindling winter coats. "You coming next time?" she said in her sassy way, releasing an audible, almost comical lip smack. Lauren nodded with a smile, but he felt a deep emptiness inside himself as the rhythm of earlier began to fade from his mind. He put on his bull starter jacket and cap, then hit the streets. Chapter 2. Music sounds better with you. Stardust. Lauren bounced from Denise's place on 76 and Yates, and he made it back to his lair, second floor of a 2-flat overlooking Lake Michigan. Before he even turned on the lights, he hit the button on his stereo. The blinking equalizers made a strobe in the darkness. There were crates stacked upon crates, lining every conceivable piece of wall space except for the windows and the speakers. Stardust, music sounds better with you, bumped through the speakers, warbling with bass. He never worried about volume at any time of day or night because the woman that lived under him was in her 80s and couldn't hear a damn thing. He sank into his chair and fiddled with the lighter on the tiny tray next to it. He nearly knocked over the ashtray in the dark. The dim orange flame brought his joint to light as he looked around the room for meaning. He knew he was going to write about this. He had to, but he couldn't sleep. He felt as if he couldn't sleep if he didn't let someone know the extent of what happened. He needed to talk about it so that he could confirm it happened at all. He gently kicked out with his feet and pushed up against his phone on the floor. He fumbled for the device, getting entwined with the cord and pulling the entire thing up with him. He dialed the number, nearly using Braille to see it. After 4 rings, Alonzo picked up. He was more asleep than awake. It was easy to tell from the weakness in his voice. "Hey man, it's Lauren." "Yeah, what's up man? Are you okay?" Alonzo said with a yawn escaping. "Yeah, I don't know. Sort of." Alonzo breathed in shallowly, as if using the minimum concentration needed to stay conscious. "I heard the dopest set I've ever heard in my life." "Set? You talking music?" "Yeah, it was this DJ. He ran a mix. That shit was like mind control or something." "Nigga, did you call me at 4 in the motherfucking morning to tell me that?" "I'm sorry, I couldn't wait. I had to tell someone." "You gotta tell someone when you're in love." Alonzo took in a deep breath, letting the bile in him slip away. Alonzo knew it was a cold, cold world out there, and the mention of love, of any kind, gave him the clarity to understand, or at least accept Lauren's questionable use of his phone. "Okay, why?" Alonzo said in a skeptical voice, preparing to hear some bullshit. "I came." "What?" "I came." "To what?" "The music." "Well, damn," Alonzo said, fully awake and completely intrigued now. "Full on?" Alonzo questioned further. "Yeah, truly." "Well, damn, I need to fire my masseuse and get this shit you're on." "Now what?" Lauren breathed out rather depressingly. "That's the question though, ain't it? What now?" "I don't think I'm ever gonna know love again." Lauren exhaled from his joint. "I think you're about done, so good night," Alonzo said, clicking the phone off before Lauren had a chance to answer. Lauren let the phone rest on his chest as streams of brilliant orange appeared across the lake, announcing the sun's entrance. The sun was muted from its full potential in the waning months of February. The sound of the phone off the hook woke him, along with the automated, "We're sorry. If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again." Lauren walked over to his stereo that was just as half awake as he, when he took a wobbling needle off of a record that had long since reached its last track. He fed a record to his stereo, sacrificed to the gods of house, Frankie Knuckles, It's a Cold World. He shuffled to his kitchen, still a walking zombie, pouring Captain Crunch into a bowl, one of the few things in this world that was natural. He didn't think too hard about his belief, he just let it be true. He sat in front of his computer reluctantly before turning it on. The blank glowing white screen mocked him. He had to write, but he only had feelings and emotions. He didn't have names or facts. In the end, truth wasn't true anyways. People believed whatever it was that fit their personal codes, no matter what facts were presented. If all he had were feelings, he'd write that until he could do better. If you've ever been in love, you know what I heard last night. And if you ever had your heart broken, you know what I heard last night. House has been on its way out for some time, giving way to trip hop, electronica, trance, but it's not ideal. I know this because I fell in love last night. A DJ, a nameless wizard, a shapeshifter, a god bless me, and a chosen few with a mix so heavenly I came. Not a euphemism. That happened. The set list varied, it took turns I never expected, and the crescendo came together in a blissful cacophony of sounds. A new mix that I never heard before, that I can do little to describe in text. Vocals haunting, painful as the most beautiful beating you've ever taken. But it cradled you in its arms like a mother that assured it was all for you. Beats that folded into themselves like the complicated equations of Pythagorean theory. The rhythm ran as if born in a back alley in the south side of Chicago. The DJ held us captive for an hour, then disappeared into the ether like smoke. Now I only feel an emptiness that I can't feel. Can you feel my love lost now? Lauren closed his eyes and forwarded his note as an email to Eline, his go-to gal at Rolling Stone, and took a bite of his Captain Crunch, which had finally become soggy and soup more than cereal. He didn't get 3 spoonfuls in before his phone rang. He picked up his phone from the floor, pulling it up, bass and all, with its tangled cords. Hello? Yeah, this story is great, but you know it needs an ending, right? Said Elan without introduction. Busting nuts to music? Did that happen? You know what? Doesn't matter. You're giving me blue balls with this story. Figure out the who's and what's and end it so I can run it. Don't worry, I'm going to. Alright, shalom, she said before hanging up. Lauren was now officially a detective, but in all truth, he would have investigated this regardless of who else gave a damn. Lauren was great at describing the world, giving sounds words, but in all honesty, he didn't give a damn about it. Maybe that's why he got so much work. It was always something he loved. Editors got the fucking of their lives, and he was a dispassionate lover that demanded you please him, not the other way around. Chapter 3, Move Your Body. Tracks Marshall Jefferson. It was 80-something on Stony Island where he tracked down Boilermaker. He was a great DJ. He could move a crowd like no one else, but even he was cycling out of house music. He may have been one of the last of his kind, but if you wanted to make any money at all, you had to do what people liked. One man couldn't be an island onto himself, and it didn't matter how big he was. Boilermaker wasn't spinning tonight. He was a fly on the wall of a party that was just turning up. He was a big man. Someone once told him he was a professional or at least semi-pro bodybuilder, and looking at the size of him, this wasn't a stretch. Lauren never thought about it. He never tended to think of outward appearances before he saw someone's aura. He eased his way into the crowd and sidled up to Boilermaker Brute. The huge man recognized Lauren instantly. On top of the kinship bound by the music, Lauren wrote a piece on him years back around the start of his career, and the Boilermaker never forgot it. The big man leaned in for a shake that transformed into a hug. The behemoth all but enveloped the smaller man in his brief embrace. "What's up, dog? It's been a minute," Boilermaker said. "Yeah, it has, right?" Lauren said, nearly yelling over the loud music. The two men were accustomed to inferring meaning through extreme noise. To an outsider, one might think they read lips. "Man, we should catch up, brother," Lauren insisted. "Yo, have you heard this new DJ Euphoria? This motherfucker is doing that old shit we both love." Lauren smiled, glad he didn't have to seem cold by asking about her. "I'm glad you brought it up. I saw her over Denise's house yesterday." Boilermaker moved his head rhythmically while shedding light on it all. "Yeah, I heard she tore the roof off that motherfucker." "So she's a woman?" Lauren asked with the utmost caution. Boilermaker shrugged his massive, boulder-like shoulders. "Can I get her number? I have words." "No doubt," said the burly DJ while whipping out his flip phone. Lauren smiled. He wanted a cell phone, but wasn't ready to take that step yet. Before Boilermaker spoke a word, he flipped his phone down as if there was no longer a need for it. Lauren instinctively glanced around the room, feeling a shift in mood like one may feel a breeze. There was Euphoria entering the party in a nondescript black hoodie that was triple thick, as if she had 3 of them on. Lauren was held captive by the memory of the night before. He could barely see her eyes through the hood, just the orange flare of a blunt blazing and waning from steady inhales and exhales. Chapter 4. Follow me, Elias. Come on, follow me, Boilermaker said while cutting his way through the crowd. Lauren followed the big man without question and smiled as if in a trance. Hey, what up, player? This here my boy Lauren. I was telling him about your shit. Euphoria nodded, non-committal. Lauren stuck his hand out for a shake, but the DJ placed her joint in his hand in lieu of a proper greeting. Lauren took the smoldering tree leaf and put it to his lips. He could smell her on the thing, and it was beautiful. It smelled like what joy smelled like. It smelled like spending time with a loved one on a Sunday when you had nowhere to be. He inhaled, then felt a rush of calm more immediately than anything he had ever smoked. Boilermaker took the joint next and breathed in deep, holding in the smoke like he was trying to hold on to the last days of summer. When Boilermaker exhaled, he handed the cigarette back to Euphoria. Oh shit, that's good, said the big man. The fuck's that? Euphoria smiled after taking a drag. I make it myself. Damn, the big man said after making a brisk and jubilant purring noise with his lips. As high as Lauren may have been, even after one puff, he was still nowhere as high as the music took him the night before. So, Lauren started to say until the door of this apartment was abruptly flung open and Chicago's finest poured in. People began to scatter as if they were a part of a high-stakes game of tag. Boilermaker and Euphoria made a break for it. Lauren followed them, even though he didn't have a damn thing to be guilty of. They entered into a bedroom that was someone's house and opened a window. Dog, I may have some shit on me, some priors or something. I don't even know. I'm up, said Boilermaker as he hopped out of the window. Lauren glanced at Euphoria, curious if she would have an explanation. She didn't, or she didn't bother volunteering it. Lauren almost considered not hopping the window, but Euphoria turned to him with one leg in and one leg out. Follow me, she said, as if it were an invitation to her world, more than just a leap out of a window. Lauren nodded, having no logical reason not to play this adventure out to its conclusion. Euphoria hopped down and waited with 2 open arms for Lauren to follow. He hopped into her arms, which was stronger than he suspected for her size. The 2 fled in a random direction. At least it felt random until Lauren passed his car. This is my car, he said while fumbling with his keys. He popped the locks with his keys and Euphoria didn't hesitate for a second before getting in. From the moment Lauren turned the key, house music came to life in their ears. Euphoria stoked the flames of her slowly dying blunt before the car even started rolling. The 2 drove for 2 blocks in silence. Euphoria was easy as Sunday morning. She seemed content to drive anywhere and do anything. She didn't ask for a destination or offer one. She seemed as if she was where she was in the moment. Lauren, on the other hand, was trying to play things cool, but was anxious as a kid on Christmas. Lauren finally hit Lakeshore Drive before breaking down and figuring it all out. I was meaning to get a hold of you since last night. Euphoria placed one leg up on the car door higher than the other in an unladylike pose, though she was wearing pants, and it hardly mattered. She handed Lauren her joint while she spoke. Lauren took a shallow puff, seeing how hard it fucked him up last time. And what were you wanting from me? You killed it last night, and that last track was transcendent, Lauren said while handing her joint back. Euphoria chuckled as if amused by the wording. Transcendent? Okay, she said, taking a pull of her cigarette. The car glid past the Museum of Science and Industry, giving a peek of its full glory in the shadow of the night's light. So I'm guessing you're a true house head. You have no idea. I guess you can say I dabble in music. That was you dabbling? Lauren said with true amazement. There was real pain in that mix. I felt something. Felt something? she blurted out as if that was a bizarre thing to say. Lauren was not about to tell her he came in his pants, at least not at this point. It wasn't as if he was embarrassed, but he didn't think it was something you said to a woman on the first night you met them. What do you mean you felt something? She insisted. I came in my pants, Lauren said, having no clue why he didn't filter himself. Happens to the best of us, she said. Lauren chuckled, but after a half second of silence, couldn't tell if she meant the best of us as a euphemism or she had came in her pants with her dick. Are you a man or a woman? Lauren asked flat out, but with as little judgment as he could. I can show you. My place. Turn up here, she said, sidestepping the question but putting in a suggestive clue, maybe an open invitation. Lauren found himself in the most high-stakes poker game of his life. This was an invitation he had no clue what in the fuck was going to flop the fuck out. For the music, he'd roll the dice. This story needed an ending, even if it were the crying game. Aside from the nut, what was it you felt in my song? Euphoria said. I guess if I had to put it into words, I say I felt a deep longing for something, to the point of self-destruction. I guess you are some sort of writer. Turn off here, she said. If this isn't even your thing, what could you possibly do that takes priority over that? Life. Well, technically, I've led several in my day. I leave one, I move to another. I just do what I feel at the time, and this called to me. Tell me you plan to make more. This can't be the end of it. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Right here, she said, directing Lauren to stop at an apartment building overlooking Lakeshore Drive and Lake Michigan. The two put a temporary pin in their conversation, and Euphoria led Lauren through her building's hallway to her apartment on the first floor. She gave life to her lair by the click of a switch near the door. She put her hand on Lauren's chest for the briefest moment before offering to take his coat. Lauren didn't miss the gesture and was still willing to gamble it all. The apartment was slightly more cultured than he'd expected for some reason. There were works of art on the wall, complicated sculptures, and postmodern furniture that seemed immaculate. Euphoria shed her mini sweaters like a cocoon. Which was ironic because of the huge wall in her house dedicated to a photorealistic depiction of a monarch butterfly. Lauren saw the curvature of breasts, which he took as a good sign. Come downstairs, it's where I keep all my equipment, she said casually. Do you want a drink? No, I'm fine. Euphoria opened the door next to her refrigerator, which was perfectly disguised as a wall if you had no concept of a lower level. Follow me, she said, using a finger to beckon him on. She hit the lights and could see the greenery creeping up the stairs as if it had a mind to grow wild. It smelled beautiful as world peace or a baby's first steps. Euphoria led the way down wooden steps. Lauren realized now she was accepting him into her world, because whatever it was down these steps couldn't have been completely legal. The basement was its own habitat. Tendrils of green snaked in every conceivable place like veins. The ceilings dangled with plant life, and the most delicate and exotic color petals seemed almost to bloom at his presence. Euphoria reached into the plant, and when she pulled her hand back, there were patches of colorful petals and vines. She led Lauren through a never-ending maze of green to her stereo setup. Lauren breathed a bit easier. A small part of him thought she'd have a well that she'd throw him in, demanding he put lotion on his skin. Euphoria worked the switches on her rig like a pilot doing pre-check for launch. She put the handful of plant life she grabbed and placed it on one of her turntables. She retrieved a record from under her table, which was Elias, Follow Me. When she put needle to record, the room pulsated with the angelic sounds. The lamplight of this place was heavily weighted with a fluorescent tinge, which made everything feel bathed in eternal moonlight. Euphoria meticulously tore the plant remnants into smaller ash-like particles and put it on rolling paper that was in her pocket. Lauren wasn't an expert on drugs, but he assumed there was more to it than that. He didn't question the moment, he just lived in it. What euphoria didn't roll, she wiped away with a strong gust of breath. She let the record spin, bobbing her head, sparking the joint, or whatever it actually was, to life with the magic of fire, blessed with the kiss of life from her inhale. She held in the smoke, nodding her head, letting whatever magic it held work. When she exhaled bliss. She handed the cigarette to Lauren. He accepted it like it was a choice that held the weight of consequence, not knowing why. Whatever this was felt like his initiation. Lauren let the rhythm guide him as euphoria pushed in the record function on her tape deck. She began her mix, holding nothing back, working the fade, transforming the beat into something new and unexpected. Lauren took an inhale of the weed and felt an indescribable peace wash over him, as if all the world was new. Euphoria flipped a record onto table 2. The rotation blurred, forming a black earth. Her hands blurred into colors. The sounds became tangible to taste. The song played on as if it were the heartbeat of the world, which tethered him to reality. Euphoria let the record spin for a moment and reached her hand out for her joint. She took in the smoke and exhaled silver streams of freedom and equality. Lauren accepted the joint as the plants trembled and moved all around him, enveloping him as if caressing him with 1,000 gentle hugs. Euphoria took off her shirt and exposed her black bra. She had worked up a sweat from the fury of her mix. "Is Euphoria your real name?" said Lauren, who felt as if his words were as distant as echoes in space. "It is the truest me I have ever been. Is Lauren your real name?" "Yeah, I think." "Tell me, Lauren, why are you here?" "Existentially?" Euphoria did not clarify, letting him come to whatever conclusion felt correct to him. To interpret truth." Euphoria smiled at the answer, betraying no hint as to what that meant to her. Euphoria moved from behind her equipment and took off her top. The plants around her swelled as if to her will. She walked forward with an intangible glow Lauren could feel. She leaned in and kissed him, as if to ask his body a question. When she got the correct answer, she took a step back. Lauren anxiously took a step towards her, but she halted him with her hand, as if she had yet another question to ask. She slowly undid her pants and let them fall by the wayside. There, as confusing and contradictory as any other thing Lauren had seen this night, she had a penis and a vagina, one on top of the other, as if her entire being was the embodiment of duality. She took a moment, letting him see, letting his body answer the question his mind could not process. She took a step forward, and bright multicolored petals bloomed all around her. They, or him. Lauren stood there, then stood up straight, and didn't back away. They shared in a kiss, which was a drug, better than drugs. It was house music every day. It was a spacewalk without a body. The tendrils of the plant softly caressed the two as if it were a willing participant in their joy. He felt himself go away, lost in a moment of bliss. No mind, no body, just a being.